Medical assistance in dying is Canada's assisted suicide program. Assisted suicide is a medical procedure in which the recipient or patient is given depressants in order to end their lives under the supervision of a doctor. There's a lot of controversy surrounding it, given, it regards suicide and death. And especially so in Canada, because their current legislation allows for only a singular reason, or a singular reason to be listed for the cause of MAID, which is the acronym for it. Their future legislation, that is set to take place in 2027, will include one reason that has set this entire country into a frenzy over it. And that is the sole cause being mental illness, which is a bit spicy. In this speech, I'm going to outline the multiple causes, or the multiple topics that they are currently debating over MAID, including the moral and financial aspect of it, the legal aspect, and the public opinion or reception of it. Starting with the morals, the proponents of MAID argue that there is a right to, quote, die with dignity, as Maria Chang put it, while the critics argue that there is a duty to live, meaning that there is, well, a duty as a human being to prolong your life. However, the proponents argue that the right to life guaranteed in their Constitution is also in turn a right to death, or to die with dignity. Issue number 2 is the financial aspect. This is a fact. Canada has profited every year $90 million after they implement from MAID alone. This is reported by the Office of Parliamentary Budget Officer. Yes, that's their real name. They have office twice. I don't understand. Canada. Proponents of MAID claim that this can improve the public well-being with this money, while detractors argue that the well-being has already been lowered more than it can accomplish by the, well, death. Let's see. Proponents argue that the well-being was not, in fact, lowered because the I don't want to say victims, but the recipients of MAID were, well, wanting to die. Which I'm not going to go any further into that, because that's a bit spicy. But the legality of it, assisted suicide, has time and time again been proven in court to be another form of homicide. However, that does not necessarily mean it is always illegal. Proponents argue that since the police officers are given the right to kill in the pursuit of justice, that doctors should also, in the pursuit of well-being or improving well-being, be given the right to kill. And they are, of course, the critics argue that it's nothing alike, while proponents argue that it is. Let's see. However, critics also argue that doctors have that they need to uphold their Hippocratic oath and to do no harm, or at least cause the least possible, and avoid avoidable deaths, which they claim MAID to be. And detractors and proponents of MAID also obviously argue against that. Their deaths would improve the public well-being. Now, the fourth issue, the public reception. This is probably the most important, given that this is what they actually think, what Canadians actually think of. A survey given out by the Angus Reid Institute, which is a institute dedicated to the independent research database, shows that there is a heavy division amongst Canadians, with 61% supporting the current legislation in that that terminal illness is the only possible cause for filing for MAID. The new legislation set for 2027 only has 31% approval, in which mental illness can be the sole cause for MAID. And 51% oppose that, while the rest are somewhere in between. 55%, however, are concerned about the future of healthcare and worry that MAID might replace improvements to the public healthcare system entirely. In conclusion, you're responsible for forming an opinion on this yourself, but it is very important to know the opinions of others on a topic with such gravity as this. I hope that you've all learned more about the controversy of MAID and assisted suicide in general. And thank you for listening.